Hey guys, listen to this story all the way through, slowly, gently, as if a soft voice drifts into your ears on a quiet night. The more you listen, the heavier your eyes will grow. Sleep will come silently, like a friend placing a calm hand upon your head. So listen until the end. This is a story that flows like a long, peaceful river of history. Imagine Europe after the fall of Rome. The empire that once stretched across the continent has dissolved into silence. The stone roads, once echoing with the march of legions, are now broken. Watchtowers crumble, towns scatter, and ordinary people wake each morning in a world where no one guarantees their safety anymore. Along the rivers, in the thick forests, on the lonely hills, raiders, bandits, and wandering enemies lurk. In this restless world, people long for shelter, for a place that can promise protection. Out of that longing, slowly, the idea of castles begins to take shape. At first, these fortresses are simple, almost humble. If you walked through the countryside in those years, you might see nothing more than a wooden wall circling a mound of earth. Sometimes a shallow ditch is dug around it, filled with water when possible. Sometimes it is just a fence of sharpened logs, mud-packed and rough, but still a barrier. And yet, even these crude wooden walls brought a breath of relief into fearful hearts. Picture an evening. The sun has dipped. Shadows crawl across the fields. Farmers gather their tools, round up their animals, and hurry inside the wooden gates. The gate slams shut with a heavy thud. Outside, you might hear the distant beat of hooves, raiders on the move, or outlaws searching for prey. Inside, though, people cluster close around a small fire. Smoke drifts upward through the gaps in the roof. Children bury their faces in their mother's clothes. For a night, at least, they feel safe behind the timber walls. These wooden fortresses became known as Motte and Bailey castles. The motte was a mound of earth, raised high to hold a wooden tower. From there, the lord and his soldiers could watch the horizon. Below lay the bailey, a fenced courtyard where barns, kitchens, and huts stood together. If you wandered through one, you would see narrow paths, wooden walkways, small houses of thatch, and food stored in sacks or hung from rafters. Life inside was crowded, smoky, and noisy, yet still far better than facing danger in the open fields. But wood, though useful, was fragile. People soon realized that a single spark could undo their defenses. Enemies could torch the walls, and in a few hours, the fortress would collapse into blackened ash. Lords and builders began to think, what if the walls were stone instead of wood? What if towers could last through fire, through storm, through time itself? And so, slowly, the first stone castles began to rise. Imagine one of them now. Huge blocks of limestone, stacked upon each other, forming a tower that seems to scrape the sky. In the sunlight, the walls gleamed pale and cold. Inside, the air was damp, the rooms dim, the windows narrow and arrow-shaped. Yet from the top, a guard could see miles away, far enough to spot a raiding party long before it arrived. The shift from wood to stone was more than just practical. It was symbolic. A wooden wall promised only a night of safety. A stone keep promised permanence. To the peasants who worked the land, those massive towers were a reminder that their lord was strong, unshakable, perhaps even invincible. To enemies, the message was clear. This place would not fall easily. Walk with me through one of these early stone keeps. Your feet echo on the spiral staircase, worn by countless boots. The air grows cooler as you climb. Iron hinges groan as a door swings open. Somewhere in the distance, you hear the ring of steel as guards practice in the yard. yet everything moves in a rhythm, calm and steady, life settling into its new pattern within walls of stone. Think for a moment how far it all began, from fear of bandits, from the need to guard a harvest, from the cry of children in the night. Out of these small human worries grew the monumental architecture of castles. The story of castles is, at its heart, the story of people trying to endure. Now close your eyes. Picture the flickering light of torches dancing on wooden palisades. Picture the smoke curling above small huts. Then slowly imagine that scene transforming. The wood replaced by stone, the small tower becoming a giant keep. Centuries pass, but those walls remain, silent witnesses to human hope and struggle. And as you drift through these images, your body feels heavier, your thoughts softer. The story of castles continues, but for now, you rest within their walls, where night is quiet and safety feels close. You linger now in the early centuries of medieval Europe, when life is uncertain and power is fragile. Imagine yourself as a noble, a lord of a small patch of land, holding just enough wealth to hire a few soldiers and feed your household. Each day you hear rumors, raiders moving along the rivers, rival lords fighting over boundaries, peasants whispering about rebellion. You feel the weight of it pressing down, and you know one thing above all: safety must be built, not wished for. So you look to the land itself, to the hill that rises above your village, or the bend of a river where defenses might be strong. You picture your home not as a farmhouse, but as a fortress, a place where walls protect you and your family, and where the people who serve you can gather in times of trouble. In those early days, castles are not simply military structures. They are extensions of a noble's body, a shield wrapped around his life, wealth, and honor. Close your eyes and walk through such a scene. A small lord gathers his household. Carpenters chop timber, oxen drag stones, peasants dig moats with their hands blistered and raw. The lord himself paces, pointing, commanding, anxious. He knows that without protection, his family and followers are only a breath away from disaster. A single raid could undo years of harvests, years of fragile prosperity. And so the castle rises, plank by plank, wall by wall, like a shell forming around a creature that needs to survive. You can feel the tension that fills the air. The world is restless. After Rome's collapse, no single power controls the roads or the fields. Instead, power is fractured into countless little territories, each ruled by someone with ambition. Borders are vague, maps are uncertain, and strength is measured, not by distant laws, but by the walls. You can build, and the swords. You can command. The Lord, in his mind, sees the castle as more than wood and stone. It is a statement to his neighbors. It says, "Here I stand. Here my authority reaches. Approach with caution." For in those days, people measure respect in visible strength. A lord with no castle is a lord whose authority may dissolve overnight. A lord with walls, however humble, commands the gaze of those around him. Imagine, then, the life inside those walls. You pass through the gate, and you find the Lord's hall, a long room with a smoky hearth where decisions are made by firelight. The Lord sits at a heavy wooden table, his family close by, his soldiers always within reach. The castle becomes not just a home, but a political stage, where oaths are sworn, disputes are settled, and alliances are made. Even the most modest castle carries the atmosphere of a court, where power is displayed in ritual and ceremony. And yet, it is still a place of fear. Picture the night when word comes that enemies are approaching. The villagers rush inside, carrying what they can: goats, chickens, sacks of grain. The gate slams shut, and the guards prepare. The Lord paces the walls, heart pounding. He knows his castle is not perfect. No castle is. The timber creaks in the wind. The ditches are shallow, but it is better than nothing. He knows that behind these walls, his family may survive the night. For the noble, safety is not only about survival, it is about continuity. He thinks of his children, of the land that must remain theirs. Without protection, his line may vanish. With walls, he has a chance to pass something forward. The castle becomes, in a way, a promise to the future. A promise that the family name will endure, carved into stone or held together by timber, even when the world outside is unstable. Walk a little further in your imagination. Step outside the walls and see how the villagers look up at the castle. To them, it is both a blessing and a burden. They know the Lord's protection may save them when raiders come, but they also know it ties them to his rule, his taxes, his commands. The castle looms above them as a constant reminder. Safety comes at the cost of loyalty. They bow their heads, both grateful and resentful. The Lord understands this, too, and he builds higher walls to make sure gratitude is not the only thing that keeps people in place. As centuries move, you see this pattern repeat. One lord builds a timber fort, another copies it, then improves it. A neighbor replaces wood with stone, and others follow. Each decision is born of the same impulse: to create a safe core in a dangerous, shifting world. Close your eyes once more and listen. You hear the hammer striking nails, the sound of stone grinding against stone. You hear the bleating of animals driven inside, the murmur of prayers whispered by wives and children. Above it all, you hear the steady voice of the Lord, urging his men to work faster, to raise the walls higher, to make the keep stronger. For in his heart, he knows that safety is never permanent. It must be built, guarded, and built again. And so the castles spread across the land, born not out of luxury, but out of fear, out of the desire of lords to survive, to protect their families, and to mark their place upon the earth. From their high windows, they gaze across the countryside, not only at the beauty of fields and forests, but at the endless question that drives them. How can we be safe tonight, tomorrow, and in the years yet to come? You move deeper into the Middle Ages, and the word that hangs in the air is innovation. Lords and builders are searching for new ways to defend themselves, and one of the most important ideas of all begins to spread across Europe, the Motte and Bailey Castle. Close your eyes and picture it. A mound of earth rises before you, the Motte, steep and high, shaped by the hands of countless peasants with shovels and baskets. At the top of this mound stands a wooden tower, square and simple, its walls darkened by smoke and rain. Around the base of the mound stretches the bailey, a wide courtyard fenced by timber palisades. Within the bailey are barns, huts, workshops, and kitchens. Together, Motte and Bailey form a single unit, a small world contained within walls. You walk across a narrow wooden bridge into the bailey. The ground is muddy, trampled by hooves and boots. Chickens scatter around your feet. Dogs bark, and smoke rises from a cooking fire. Children chase each other between huts, while soldiers drill with wooden spears, their shouts echoing against the walls. The place feels crowded, busy, and alive. A miniature village wrapped in timber, yet always, looming above, is the Motte, with its tower watching silently over all. The design is clever. If attackers storm the bailey, the defenders can retreat up the steep hill into the tower. The mound itself slows the enemy, forcing them to climb while arrows rain down from above. The wooden palisades are high and sharp, built quickly, yet strong enough to buy precious time. For the lords of these centuries, speed is everything. A Motte and Bailey can be built in weeks rather than years, raised almost overnight to claim territory or secure a border. Imagine the feelings of the people who live within. For the peasants, it is both safety and hardship. They work long hours hauling earth, sharpening logs, repairing ditches. Their backs ache, their hands blister. Yet, when rumors of raiders drift across the countryside, they look up at the mound and feel some measure of comfort. The tower seems like a watchful guardian, even if made of nothing more than timber and hope. For the Lord, the Motte and Bailey is power in physical form. He rides out across the fields, the wooden tower rising behind him, and neighbors cannot ignore the sight. It declares, "This land is held. This land is watched." Even the humblest tower on a mound marks a claim, a statement that strength lives here. Picture a night inside such a castle. The fires are low, the gates barred. Guards pace the palisade, their torches glowing like stars. In the bailey, animals huddle in pens, and families sleep close together on straw. Above them, in the tower, the Lord and his household rest uneasily, ready to be roused at any alarm. A horn might sound at any moment, but until then, there is quiet, the steady rhythm of life inside fragile walls. And yet, for all their usefulness, Motte and Baileys are never perfect. You imagine flames catching the dry timber. You imagine ladders scraping against the palisades, enemies clambering up, chaos breaking through the gates. The people inside know this too. They understand that their safety is temporary, that these castles are shields of wood, vulnerable to fire and time. Still, they cling to them, because a shield of wood is better than no shield at all. These castles spread rapidly, especially across lands where power is contested. After the Norman conquest of England, dozens upon dozens sprang up, dotting the countryside like wooden crowns. Each one rose almost overnight, reshaping villages, altering landscapes. Imagine traveling across that land. You would see motte after motte, tower after tower, each declaring a new order, each binding the people beneath it to the authority of their lords. Think of the rhythm of life there. Days begin with the crowing of roosters, the clatter of buckets at the well. Soldiers sharpen blades, carpenters mend fences, cooks stir pots of porridge. Children peek up at the tower, half in awe, half in fear. At night, the place smells of smoke, straw, and damp earth. You hear muffled conversations, laughter, and prayers for safety. It is not grand, not yet, but it is survival. The Motte and Bailey represents a stage in human history when defense was fast, urgent, and improvised. It is a reminder that castles did not begin as stone. Giants, they began as fragile wooden shells shaped by necessity. Step by step, mound by mound, these structures laid the foundation for the mightier fortresses yet to come. Now, in your mind, step back. Look at the motte rising against the sky, the bailey clustered at its feet. Hear the wind rattle the wooden fences. Feel the earth damp beneath your boots. You know this place will not last forever, but for now it stands. For now it is a refuge. And as you imagine those simple walls guarding frightened hearts, your own breathing slows. Your body sinks deeper into rest. The Motte and Bailey, humble and temporary, whispers the oldest promise of all. For this night, you are safe. You drift forward now in time, to an age when lords and builders begin to lose patience with wood. For all its usefulness, timber burns too quickly, rots too easily, and splinters under siege. Again and again, castles made of wood are reduced to ashes, their defenses gone in a single night, and so a new idea takes root. If wood cannot endure, then stone must. Picture the first great heaps of stone rising across Europe. They are stark, heavy, and imposing, built not for beauty, but for strength. Imagine the ground trembling as oxen drag massive blocks of limestone into place. Hear the ring of hammers on chisels, the grinding scrape as stone is shaped. Walls grow thicker than a man's outstretched arms. Towers climb into the sky, and gates become doors of iron bound to solid rock. You step closer, and the scale overwhelms you. Where timber once stood fragile and hollow, now there is a fortress that seems carved out of the earth itself. The keep is rectangular, its sides plain, its windows narrow slits. It is not graceful. It is stern, severe, a guardian in stone. The builders care little for elegance. Their goal is permanence. Inside, the air is cool and damp. You run your hand along the rough wall and feel the chill seep into your skin. The rooms are small, dimly lit, and sparsely furnished. Smoke from the hearth struggles to escape through the tiny openings. Yet, despite the discomfort, people feel secure here. No raider's torch can so easily bring these walls down. No storm can tear them apart. The stone keep is a promise of survival. For the lords, this transformation is more than practical. It is symbolic. A wooden tower speaks of necessity. A stone castle speaks of wealth, power, and authority that cannot be ignored. Imagine peasants working in the fields, glancing up at a keep that towers above them. To their eyes, it is as if the Lord's strength is made visible, as if his rule is written into the very landscape. You climb a narrow spiral staircase, the steps worn and uneven beneath your feet. The air is thick with the smell of smoke and damp straw. At the top, you emerge into a chamber where guards keep watch. Through arrow slits, you see the countryside spread wide, villages and forests stretching to the horizon. From this vantage, nothing escapes notice. The world feels distant, controllable, almost small. Now imagine the night. The torches burn low, casting long shadows on the stone walls. The silence is broken only by the wind sighing through the arrow, slits, and the faint creak of wooden doors. Families sleep close together on the hard floors, wrapped in blankets. Soldiers lie in corners, armor stacked beside them, swords within reach. The castle itself seems alive, a breathing presence that cradles them in its strength. But stone also brings challenges. Building a stone keep is slow, costly, and exhausting. Years may pass before the walls are finished. Peasants are pressed into labor, quarrying stone, hauling it mile after mile. Some lords ruin themselves trying to build bigger, stronger castles than their neighbors. And yet, despite the cost, the stone keeps multiplying. Each new fortress inspires others, until the countryside is dotted with towers that seem eternal. Consider how this change alters the rhythm of life. The wooden motte and baileys felt temporary, like tents on a battlefield. But the stone castle feels immovable. It shapes not only the land, but the people's imaginations. A child born in its shadow may live and die while the keep remains unchanged. Generations come and go, but the castle endures, silent and stern. Like a monument to time itself, you pause, listening. Do you hear it? The distant echo of masons tapping stone, the call of overseers urging workers on, the grind of carts on dirt roads. These are the sounds of a new age, when men sought to build not just for their own lifetimes, but for centuries ahead. Now step outside once more and gaze up. The keep looms against the sky, its walls glowing pale in the moonlight. It is more than a refuge. It is a statement. Here stands a lord who intends to last, and though battles will come, though sieges will test its strength, the stone will hold long after wooden walls have fallen to dust. As you carry this image in your mind, you feel your own breath steadying, your thoughts slowing. The solidity of stone, the weight of centuries, settles over you like a blanket. The story of castles moves on. But for now, you rest against the calm certainty of walls that do not burn, do not bend, and do not break. You lie back, letting your thoughts slow as the story carries you deeper into the age of castles. The walls and towers are not only for show, and not only for the pride of their builders. They are shields against dangers that press in from every horizon. Close your eyes and imagine yourself centuries ago, when Europe was fragmented, and no king could offer steady peace to every village. In this uncertainty, raiders and rivals made the night a fearful time. You hear whispers of sails on the sea, the dreaded Vikings. They were masters of rivers and coastlines, steering their long, sleek ships up narrow waterways, reaching towns and monasteries no one thought could be reached. You picture yourself standing on a muddy bank as a dragon-prowed vessel glides closer, warriors leaping ashore with axes and round shields. They move quickly, plundering gold, livestock, and captives. Without a stronghold, peasants scatter into forests, helpless to defend their fields. But with a wooden motte and bailey, or a rising stone tower, people run for safety. Gates slam shut, and the raiders find their easy prize denied. And it wasn't only Vikings. From the south came Saracen pirates across the Mediterranean, striking coasts of Italy and France. From the east, Magyars on horseback thundered across fields, their arrows raining down on scattered villages. Even nearby lords could be enemies. Borders were fluid, allegiances fragile, and neighbors might attack for land, cattle, or vengeance. You picture yourself as a farmer, glancing nervously each dusk at the horizon, knowing one sudden raid could undo years of toil. Castles began to answer that anxiety. You can almost hear the pounding of hooves approaching, then the heavy thud of the portcullis dropping into place. Behind thick gates and walls, you feel a kind of calm. Fire arrows may hiss overhead, but inside the bailey or keep, there is at least a chance to resist. You picture families huddled together, clutching their children, the walls trembling from blows outside, yet still holding. Defenses grew sharper over time. Wooden palisades gave way to stone, not just for permanence, but because timber burned too easily. Picture yourself on a wall walk, looking down at an enemy with a torch, and knowing the flame cannot easily bite into solid stone. Towers allowed defenders to rain arrows from above, giving every advantage to those within. Narrow slits, arrow loops, carved into walls let you see the world outside, and loose shafts, while keeping yourself mostly hidden. Moats, though sometimes simple ditches, added another obstacle. Imagine muddy banks, waterlogged ground, or a filled trench making it harder for a raider to roll ladders close. Even without water, a dry ditch breaks the charge, slows the push of siege engines, and buys precious time. The fear of raiders shaped not just the walls, but also the way castles were placed. You notice many were built on high ground, where an enemy must climb before reaching the gate. Some overlook rivers, commanding a view of traffic, turning the castle into both a guardian and a warning. Others anchor crossroads, so every merchant and traveler sees the Lord's power and knows where safety or taxation awaits. Inside, life adjusted to the threat. You imagine stores of grain and salted meat hidden in deep vaults, barrels of water in cool chambers, ready for a siege. You feel the heaviness of the drawbridge pulled up, the outside world cut off. Days stretch on, but the thick walls keep despair at bay. When raids are frequent, people grow used to living half their lives, prepared to retreat inside at a moment's notice. But raids were not constant. Between attacks, a castle's looming silhouette was often enough to deter trouble. You think of a band of thieves or rival soldiers approaching a valley, catching sight of stone towers on the ridge, and turning away. The castle stands as a silent protector, its very existence a weapon. Still, no defense was perfect. Sieges tested endurance more than courage. Raiders might withdraw if they met a strong fortress, but determined enemies stayed longer, choking off supplies, waiting for hunger to do their work. You imagine listening to the slow toll of time, each day of blockade gnawing at spirits. Yet even then, the castle offered hope. Secret wells, hidden postern gates, tunnels dug beneath walls for surprise escapes. All were born from the pressure of constant threats. When you drift deeper into this thought, you notice how the fear of raiders shaped not only stone and earth, but also human behavior. Nobles sought protection by allying with greater lords, offering loyalty in return for aid if their walls fell. Villagers worked fields but owed labor maintaining defenses, repairing ditches, hauling stones. The constant threat of violence wove a fabric of duty and dependence, binding people together around the fortress that promised safety. And so, as centuries passed, the memory of sudden raids lingered in the collective mind. Even when Viking sails faded from rivers, the instinct to fortify remained. Castles multiplied, each stone laid not only for prestige, but for the primal need to feel secure in a world where enemies might appear at any hour. As you let these images soften in your imagination, you find the rhythm of the past turning slow and steady, like the crackle of a fire in a watchtower. Raiders come and go, but the castles remain, their walls whispering stories of fear, resilience, and survival. You breathe deeply, almost hearing the silence after danger passes, and the calm weight of stones standing guard over sleeping people, century after century.